We want you to try a little thought experiment with us, just for a second.
Yeah.
Imagine you have some money, say $1,000, that you know you're probably going to just burn through anyway.
Right. Maybe on a weekend trip you can't really afford, or lottery tickets, something like that.
Exactly. So what if instead you just made a commitment to invest half of it?
It sounds almost too simple, right? Like that can't be the key to building actual wealth.
It seems like such a low bar.
But here's the shocking thing the author of our source material discovered. That one small, consistent act can literally be the difference between retiring broke and dying a millionaire.
To really ground this philosophy, there's this really powerful story the author shared about his grandfather. It's a little tragic, but it makes the point perfectly.
Right. His grandfather loved to gamble, horse races, card games. That was his thing.
Yeah, and when he retired at 55, he had a guaranteed income. $2,200 a month from a pension and Social Security.
Yeah.
And crucially, he had basically no living costs. He was living with his mother.
So he was completely financially secure. But he took that security and, well, he gambled it all away. For 26 years.
26 years. From 2000 to 2019, he systematically gambled that entire $2,200 every single month. He died with literally nothing.
Zero assets left.
And here's the calculation that just changes your whole perspective.
Yeah.
If he had just taken half of that money, so $1,100 a month, and just put it in the U.S. stock market,
Instead of chasing luck at the track.
he would have accumulated over $1.5 million. He would have died a millionaire.
And that's the kicker. I mean, a huge chunk of that investing would have happened during one of the worst decades in financial history, the 2000s.
The dot-com bust, the great financial crisis.
All of it. The market chaos wouldn't have mattered because that consistency just completely overrides bad timing and bad habits.
So that brings us to the core idea behind all the data in this deep dive. Just keep buying.
That's the mantra.
And we're going to unpack what that really means. We'll look at where you should focus your energy saving versus investing, why growing your income is so much more powerful than cutting costs, and why trying to time the market is probably the most expensive hobby you could ever pick up. Okay, so to figure out where we should even put our energy, we have to talk about a really common mistake. The author talks about his own experience right out of college in San Francisco. He had, maybe $1,000 in his retirement account?
A tiny amount.
A tiny amount. But what was he obsessing over?
Asset allocation. It's the classic mistake. He's worried, should I have 10% in bonds or 15%? What's the perfect mix?
Right. And meanwhile, he admitted he was regularly dropping $100 every time he went out with friends.
You know, for dinner, drinks, a ride home, that one night out could wipe out an entire year's worth of potential returns on that tiny portfolio, even in a great year for the market.
It's so easy to see how backwards those priorities were, and I think a lot of us fall into that trap. And that brings us to this foundational concept, the save-invest continuum.
That's a good way to put it. Though the terms the author uses, saving is for the poor, investing is for the rich, they sound pretty harsh.
They are, and I think that's intentional. They're meant to be jarring because he's redefining poor and rich, not as a class thing, but as a stage of life relative to your future self.
Okay, so in the saving is for the poor stage, you have low invested assets. So your annual savings, what you put in, it just completely outweighs any potential returns from the market.
Exactly.
Like if you have $5,000 invested and the market has a huge 20% jump, that's $1,000. But if you manage to save $10,000 that year, your saving is 10 times more impactful.
So your focus should be 99% on just finding more money to save and invest. But then you transition to the investing is for the rich stage. The whole equation flips.
Right. Now you have a big portfolio.
Yeah.
And the normal ups and downs of the market, the returns, they dwarf anything you can realistically save in a year.
Yeah. If you have $500,000 invested, a 10% return is $50,000. That might be 5 times what you save annually.
And suddenly you have to start worrying about asset allocation and tax efficiency because those little details on a big portfolio have a massive dollar impact.
So how can you, the listener, figure out where you are on this continuum right now? There's a really simple test.
Yeah.
You compare 2 numbers. Number 1 is your expected savings. So what you think you can comfortably save and invest this year, let's say it's $12,000.
Number 2 is your expected investment growth. You just take your current investable assets, multiply by a reasonable expected return, maybe 10%.
Yeah.
So if you have $10,000 invested, that's $1,000.
And if your expected savings, the $12,000, is way higher than your expected investment growth, the $1,000, your job is to save more, period.
But if that growth number is bigger, you've crossed over. Now it's time to fine-tune the investment strategy.
And what this shows so clearly is that long-term shift. It's inevitable because of compounding.
Yeah, the example they use is saving $10,000 a year for 40 years at a 5% return. In year one, your contribution is 20 times bigger than your investment returns.
But you fast forward 30 years, you've got over $600,000 saved.
And now your $10,000 contribution is 3 times less than what the market is earning for you. The system is finally doing the heavy lifting.
It's amazing. By the end of it all, nearly 70% of your total wealth comes from those gains, not from what you put in.
Which just proves why getting money in the market consistently and early, that whole just keep buying philosophy
Yeah.
is basically non-negotiable.
All right, so we've established saving is critical, especially early on. But what about all those rules we hear, like you have to save 20% of your income?
Yeah, are those actually helpful? The source material argues. Probably not. It points out two big flaws with those kinds of rigid rules.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, they just assume your income is stable. But the research shows family income volatility went up by like 25 to 50% between 1968 and 2005.
Our incomes just aren't that predictable anymore. A fixed rule just adds stress, especially in a bad year.
Exactly. And second, it totally ignores that your ability to save is completely dependent on your income level. The data is so clear on this. The bottom 20% of earners save about 1% a year. The top 1%, they save 51%.
So telling someone in that bottom group to save 20% is
Yeah.
it's just not based in reality. It's setting them up for failure.
Yeah, it calls for more flexibility.
Yeah.
And the author has this great biological analogy.
Oh, yeah, the Dolly Varden chart.
In Alaska, yeah. When food is scarce, these fish actually shrink their digestive tracts to save energy. But when salmon eggs are everywhere, their digestive organs can double in size to take advantage of the feast.
So be like the fish. Be financially flexible, save a ton when you're flush, and cut back without guilt when things are tight. The best advice is really just to save what you can.
Right. But here's where the source material makes its boldest claim. It says the idea that you can get wealthy just by cutting your spending is the biggest lie in personal finance.
That's a huge statement. What's the data behind that?
It's Consumer Expenditure Survey data, and it is pretty eye-opening. They looked at the lowest 20% of earners in the U.S.
Okay.
Since 1984, that group has consistently spent more than 100% of their after-tax income on just 4 things:
Just 4 necessities.
food, healthcare, housing, and transportation. That's it.
Wow, it completely reframes the whole cut your lattes argument, doesn't it?
It destroys it. They aren't overspending on luxuries. They're spending more than they earn just to survive. Telling them to cut costs isn't just misguided, it's mathematically impossible.
Right. And this leads to what the author calls the law of the stomach.
Which is based on diminishing marginal utility. Basically, if your income suddenly goes up by 10 times, you're not going to spend 10 times more on groceries.
No, of course not. You can only eat so much food.
Exactly. You might buy better quality stuff, but the spending won't scale with your income.
Which means higher income households naturally spend a way smaller percentage of their money on necessities.
Right. In 2019, the top 20% of earners made 14 times more than the bottom 20%, but they only spend about 3 times more on basic needs.
The math is just brutal. So if you really want to build wealth, you have to pivot from obsessing over tiny cuts towards consistently growing your income.
That's the only sustainable path. You have to convert what the source calls human capital, your skills, your time, into financial capital money that works for you.
And the best way to do that is through ownership.
They use the example of Jerry Richardson, the only NFL billionaire. He didn't get rich from his football salary. That was his human capital. He converted it into financial capital by buying and owning Hardee's franchises. Ownership is the real multiplier.
Okay, let's get really practical now. How do we spend money on things we want without that, that horrible guilt trip that so much financial advice gives us?
Yeah, this source offers this brilliant little psychological trick for that. It's called the 2X rule.
The 2X rule, I like this. How does it work?
It's so simple.
Yep.
It just removes the guilt by making sure that every time you splurge, you're also building wealth. So anytime you spend X dollars on a want, you have to immediately invest or donate X dollars.
So if I buy those $400 noise-canceling headphones I've been eyeing,
You immediately have to transfer another $400 into your investment account. It ties your fund spending directly to your future self. And if you're not willing to commit to the 2X, you just don't buy the item.
that's a great mental check. Okay, what about lifestyle creep? That's the silent killer of retirement goals. We know we shouldn't spend every dollar of every raise, but how much is okay?
The source gives a really useful benchmark. For most people, saving in that normal 10 to 25% range, you could spend up to 50% of future raises and not delay your original retirement date.
50%. Half for you now, half for future you. That's simple. I can remember that.
It is, but there's a small catch for the super savers.
Mm.
If you're already saving, say, 50% of your income, you have to be way stricter. You need to save more like 74% of that raise to stay on track,
Yeah.
just because your spending is already so low. But for most of us, 50-50 is a great rule.
Okay, now for the big one. The core of the just keep buying idea, timing. We are always tempted to wait for a dip, especially when the market is at an all-time high.
Always. But what's the one fact that should guide us here?
It's that most stock markets go up most of the time.
That's it. We see these little dips day to day. If you zoom out, the Dow went from 66 to nearly 11,500 in the 20th century. Through wars, depressions, you name it.
So if the market's general direction is up, then waiting to invest just means you'll probably pay more later. The best time to invest was yesterday. The next best time is today.
Which brings up that classic choice when you get a chunk of cash. Do you buy now and invest it all at once? Or do you average in, dollar cost averaging?
Averaging in feels so much safer, doesn't it? It feels like you're protecting yourself from a crash tomorrow. But what does the data say?
The data is pretty overwhelming. It strongly favors buy now.
Really?
Yeah. If you compare investing a lump sum right away versus spreading it out over 12 months, buy now wins. It outperforms by 2 to 4% on average, and it wins somewhere between 60 and 76% of the time across all sorts of assets.
So dollar cost averaging feels good psychologically, but it usually costs you money because the market goes up more than it goes down. That comfort has a price tag.
It does. And if that risk of going all in just feels like too much, the solution isn't to average in. The better move is to buy now, but into a more conservative portfolio.
Like a 60-40 stock and bond mix.
Exactly. You get a similar or even lower risk profile, but with better expected returns than just sitting in cash waiting to slowly buy stocks.
And finally, let's just destroy the ultimate timing myth. Waiting for a crash to buy the dip. The thought experiment in the book on this is just, it's perfect.
It's designed to end the argument forever. So imagine you have godlike timing. You are omniscient. You know with perfect certainty the absolute bottom of the market between every all-time high for 40 years.
So you never miss. You buy the exact bottom every single time.
Every single time. Even with that impossible advantage, that buy-the-dip strategy still underperforms regular, boring dollar cost, averaging over 70% of the time.
70%? That's insane. How is that even possible?
Because big, severe dips are actually really rare. And the compounding you miss out on while you're sitting in cash waiting for that perfect moment is way more costly than just buying at a high and letting time do its thing. The real killer is the opportunity cost of waiting.
Okay, so let's just pull together the big takeaways from this deep dive. The rules are actually pretty simple.
Yeah, they really are.
Just keep buying consistently. Ignore the market noise. Focus your energy on growing your income because there's a limit to how much you can cut.
Use the 2X rule for guilt-free spending and the 50% raise rule to handle lifestyle creep.
And when you have money to invest, the data says to do it right away. Don't wait for the dip.
All of these strategies are really about one thing: maximizing your financial capital. But the book asks this much deeper, more existential question, which is, what's all this financial capital for?
Right. It's only valuable when you think about it in relation to your most important asset, which is time.
And that's where Peter Attia's challenge comes in.
Hmm.
Would you trade all of Warren Buffett's money, his fame, his status, to be 20 years old and broke again?
And almost everyone says yes, instantly.
Of course, because time is the one thing you can never get back. It's the ultimate non-renewable resource. You can always turn your skills, your human capital, back into financial capital. You can always make more money.
But nothing, not even all of Buffett's billions, can buy you one more second of time.
Exactly. So all these rules we've talked about, they're not just about getting rich. They are the tools that give you control over your time. Investing is just the process of turning your human capital, which runs out, into financial capital, which can pay you forever.
The money you invest is literally buying you freedom from the clock.
That framing changes everything. Suddenly, your savings rate or a market dip isn't just about numbers, it's about buying your life back.
It's all in service of maximizing the value of that one non-renewable resource, time.
So the thought we want to leave you with is this. You're focused on just keep buying to maximize the value of your limited money. But are you also consistently maximizing the value of your limited time this week? Where are you choosing to invest it? And is that investment getting you closer to the life and the freedom you really want?